Hey everyone, and welcome back to Absolutely. My name is Benny. That guy over there, that handsome, dashingly amazing character with the greatest goatee in the world, is Sal.
Thank you very much. Hell of an intro. Best intro you've done so far.
Oh, wow, thanks.
Somehow.
And today we're going to talk about the thing I think all of us kind of wanted, honestly. I don't like when someone has to lose their job over not
I've
doing
never
their job
wanted
well.
to see someone get fired. Only ever when I'm a kid. Like when I was a kid, I used to be like, that person should be fired out of a cannon. Like, no. I nowadays, like, that's a person's livelihood.
It is, yeah.
I don't think about that. But yes, someone did lose their livelihood. And you know what? They'll be fine. But
they'll be fine. I guarantee she made a bunch of money before going. But
no question.
Victoria Alonso has been, from what I can read, and I'm going to stay here because obviously this is through multiple articles. They like to run with various, rumors and bullshit.
Yes.
From what I can read, has been fired from Marvel. Now, apparently she was in charge. She was, where's her official title? Because I know she was in charge of VFX. And okay, there it is. She was fired as Marvel's president of physical production. She handled physical production, post-production, visual effects, and animation.
Yeah. Which, by the way, she had been since Iron Man. So before you go like, oh yeah, no wonder. It's like, no. It's weird because we liked how the MCU looked for a good long time. And then suddenly, I don't know, somebody took a big, long 4-year vacation and we were unhappy with it now. But, like, they started with Iron Man as a co-producer. Like, they have been with the MCU since its infancy, since pre-MCU. Like, they had been working, she had been working on these movies and never stopped. Every single movie on her docket is an MCU movie.
And the only complaints I see in here is apparently she was a terrible human being.
According to reports we have garnered, that she was difficult to work with for VFX departments, and that she would play favorites, and she would pit people against each other. She would make threats. Unpleasant. I don't know if I'm not going to say she's a terrible human being. She didn't like pull the wings off of flies and commit torture and mass genocide. She wasn't apparently fun to work with.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it.
Didn't work within the company, right? Like she didn't work well with others, which I think is kind of remarkable given that she had been working for Marvel Studios since the damn thing started. You don't last long in the entertainment industry if you're unpleasant, unless you are enormously talented, completely entrenched, or a combination of those two things. Like that's all you are. Like, and she's a woman on top of it. And I'm not saying the only reason why I bring it up is because it's a tough business. Yeah, and for a woman, it's a tougher business.
Here's the official statement from her camp.
Yeah.
Alonso joined Marvel Studios in 2006, 3 years before Disney acquired the label for $4 billion. So she's been there before Disney, guys. She's been there with Kevin Feige since the beginning. Over 17 years, she has been a fixture under Chief Creative Officer Kevin Feige, standing beside Feige's right hand and co-president Louis Despacito. Simultaneously, she worked to become a brand on her own, a rare openly LGBTQ person and woman of color in a visible leadership role, known for her fiery passion and outspokenness over diversity and inclusion in Marvel's storytelling.
So that's how, this is why you probably heard this story before us. Because people who have a vested interest in talking about inclusion and people who talk about wokeism and whatnot definitely had her on their target list to begin with. And so you probably heard about, like, everything's going to get way better and we're finally going to get those movies we didn't get. Like, no, that's just not the case. Apparently, this is one of those situations where, apparently she did have like at least not. I don't want to say an agenda because I don't like. They're in the entertainment industry. She didn't work for like a black ops, spy organization,
right?
But she did want to advance and put and push inclusion in a massive franchise that can afford it.
Well, I mean, for the record, MCU has been doing that for quite some time. They've just gotten a little more about it. I mean, we've always had female superheroes. We've always had black superheroes. Like,
exactly.
It's just last couple of years.
But we have for a while.
That's what I mean. Yeah, everyone freaks out because of Phase 4, but it's like Falcon's been here since like Iron Man 1. I think. No, I mean Captain America 2, because one was World War.
Falcon's a fan favorite character. Black Panther's a fan favorite character. Ms. Marvel became a fan favorite character. You know, like everyone's happy.
The numerous sources familiar with Marvel pointed to tremendous pressure that the unit has been under for the past few years to deliver compelling content, not just in theaters, but also in the form of new streaming shows intended to bolster Disney+. In 2021 or 2022, Marvel unloaded an unprecedented torrent of comic book adventures, releasing 17 titles, 7 movies, 8 streaming specials, and 2 TV specials over 23 months. This breakneck distribution schedule, a product of the pandemic and the need to constantly feed Disney Plus, was not of Alonso's making. Marvel was far from the only studio tasked with delivering feature-level content for a newly launched streaming service. But it was Alonso's job to get each of the titles through Marvel's gargantuan post-production process. By the summer of 2022, the cracks began to show as the company's seemingly impervious armor, starting on Reddit, followed by a series of stories published across the internet. Visual effects artists began to loudly complain about Marvel's demanding post-production schedules. Complaints ranged from unrelenting overtime to chronic understaffing to the inability to avoid delivering substandard work due to constantly changing deadlines. Some singled out Alonso as a kingmaker who would blacklist artists who pissed her off in any way. One of the visual effects artists recently told Variety that the biggest issue for them was Marvel's inability to provide clear guidelines. The show I was on really struggled because it was an established character whose powers were reconceived for the MCU, so Miss Marvel. The artist said on the condition of anonymity. Most complaints, they said, came down to one.
But it's,
What's that?
It could have been Moon Knight because his powers were weird too. His suit came on and he could do nebulous stuff. But it's Miss Marvel. We all know.
Most complaints, they said, came down to one refrain. Marvel didn't figure this out beforehand. A different senior... Huh?
That sounds about right.
Yep. A different senior visual effects artist threw cold water on the idea that Alonso would single out individual artists. The idea of a very senior exec terrifying rank and file artists, per some reports, feels off, they told Variety. Above the line, 3 different up-and-coming Marvel actors agreed that Alonso was only a supportive force on set. So we're getting differing views as to how
Absolutely. And that's the thing that that's my ultimate question at the end of the day is, you know, does this actually mean anything? You know, like she was clearly a prominent figure in the MCU at Marvel Studios and now at Disney. And now she has been sacked, or at least there's been no official word about what happened, which means she was sacked. Because if she was able or given the opportunity to resign, she'd have a statement. But because this isn't the comic book industry, she has to make a statement if she's like resigning. Otherwise, it just looks weird. Plus, I think she left it like on like a Sunday. You know, it was like it was during one of those periods where it's like that's a media blackout period. But in this particular case, I'm thinking, like, does this actually mean good things for the MCU? Or is this them trying to go, like, okay, obviously, we're not really going to, like, we are going... The whole thing is the whole thing is connected, right? Yeah. It's not just, like, Alonso sucked. Like, that's not even a narrative. So we got to throw that away. What it really is Disney, Marvel inherited the pandemic and also got too greedy by creating Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And so they had to deal with both. And
I read in a separate article that Marvel was the only studio fully tasked with creating feature-length products for Disney Plus.
That makes sense.
That Star Wars wasn't actually tasked with that, which would be why a lot of their shows came late and why there were so much fewer of them.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, all the other original content... It's not on the scale that Marvel has, is what
No, they're not like MCU franchise driving projects. There's certain, especially because I think Disney's learning that Star Wars isn't the powerhouse that they thought they were buying, as opposed to Marvel, which was like a steal.
I mean, that's a completely different debate. I think I would actually love to have with you why I don't think Star Wars is hitting the same notes, and I don't think it has anything to do with half of the arguments out there. But As a Star Wars, that's a different video, but as a
Right.
Star Wars fan, I do have theories as to why it's not hitting the same threads.
Right, but
and
Marvel
it's part of what Marvel's trying, or what Disney's trying to do. I will say
absolutely. But I think at the end of the day, with this regard, Marvel is the bigger franchise. Like, it's the one to bet on.
Oh, yeah,
and,
easy. It
or
was
at least
already
had
working,
been.
and they had owned it for 10 years at that point. So.
Exactly. So because that was, like, they were the cash cow, they were tasked with producing the most milk. And so that was them making those shows and movies and crap during the pandemic, during crunch time, with new restrictions and, like, uncertainty, plus existential dread that, like, literally everyone on the planet was experiencing.
Yeah.
So you got all these factors in place that are not a recipe for creative blossoming, particularly not when it comes to a collaborative, multi-person medium like filmmaking. And so, you're going to see a diminishing return on quality. At least I think so, if you're trying to overproduce and overpromise and you don't have it, and it's not coming from a creative place. Like,
Right.
If they decided to make the Guardians of the if they had been like in the beginning when James Gunn pitches Guardians of the Galaxy, or they pitched Guardians of the Galaxy to him, and he was like no, and they threw it away. If they had decided to make Guardians of the Galaxy during the pandemic, it would be trash.
Oh, yeah.
Because it didn't come from a place of creativity. It would come from a place of desire for money.
Yeah.
And a need to recoup loss suffered by creating an extraneous streaming service. So, like, I'm concerned at the end of the day about, I know I've said that a lot, but, like, I'm concerned now about, like, the sacking of Alonso, because is she being fired because she's bad at her job? Or is she being fired as theater to make us think that there's a correlation? Because, I mean, we've seen Feige's comments where he said, we're going to ramp down production.
Yep.
We're going to focus more on quantity or quality over quantity. And so it's like, are we seeing, like, what we think is, like, are we seeing a performance where they're like, no, Feige made those comments, we fired a prominent figurehead, and we are and we're just literally putting ourselves in a position we were in before the pandemic, where we made less stuff, and so as a result, the stuff we do make will be better by virtue of it just not being rushed out.
Right.
Like,
I mean, that's
really
been the
bad
key
at her
since the
job?
beginning. You don't go from like 10 I think someone did the math that it was like 21 projects in 3 years and then 17 in 1 year. It's like,
Yeah.
That right there
Yeah.
tells you why. Like, they didn't just hire new studios; they kept putting it on the same studios. I pulled up the Disney originals just to see, because, like, when I read that comment that Marvel pretty much took the brunt of making all the big budget stuff, I was like, is that really it? 'Cause I didn't look it over. So we got the Mandalorian. That was a big one for Star Wars. But then it featured Mandalorian, Miley Cyrus, Endless Summer Vacation, Bono and the Edge, A Sort of Homecoming,
Oh yeah.
Turning the Tables with Robin Roberts.
Who?
I don't know.
Right.
Chang Can Dunk. M Power, which is a feature-like thing where they sit down and chat with all the primary women of the MCU.
It's not even it's feature length. Like, I tried to watch some of that and I was like, oh, it's like broken into chapters, so it's like,
Yeah.
this will be the Okoye chapter. I'm like, no.
Yeah, it's a weird decision for that one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we got Bad Batch and Boba Fett, which are more recent years ones.
Yeah. Andor,
Then we got Voices Rising, the music of Wakanda Forever.
Okay.
The Proud Family, I have heard in certain circuits. I think I've only heard it from Hassan, but Willow, which got canceled.
Which was just reviled by all
Yeah.
parties. It was one of those things where, like, no one liked it.
Oh, crap, it started! National Treasure, the TV show featuring no one from the movies.
I know. I saw it and I'm like,
I gotta watch this.
I'm like, do you think anyone could care less about National Treasure if you remove Nicolas Cage from that franchise? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, why would you make a National Treasure show? I didn't know it started. Okay, I'm gonna check. I want to see how bad that is. King Shakir Recycle, The Low Tone Club, Gina Yee, The Chorus. What I'm getting at is none of these are like the levels of like a Star Wars or Marvel franchise show.
Yeah, they're not
They're not magnet
programming.
shows. Yeah. These are the kinds of shows that I get on to watch Mandalorian and I get through it, and then while I was booting it up, I saw a few and added them to my watch list.
Nice.
Magnet programming is the best way to put that.
Thank you. So yeah, like, I think that.
Hold on, I just want to let you know, and I don't know
Yeah.
if we should watch this just for fun, if we can give our opinions on it. And the hip hop Nutcracker, Run DMC's Rev Run brings us along for a hip hop reimagining of the Nutcracker. Come on, Sal, we should review that.
I mean, it's not holiday season. I only watch the Nutcracker during the holidays.
Okay, but you're agreeing to Hip Hop Nutcracker in Christmas then. That's what I took away from that.
You can take what you want. But
I'll make Dan and Hussid watch it. They're not in the video right now. They don't get to say it. I can see him in the green room going, no. He's watching. If we still are going, you are watching Hip Hop Nutcracker. Anyway, back to the topic of Alonzo.
Yes, I genuinely feel in my heart of hearts, I wonder if she is just part of the theater of making us, of tricking us into thinking that like Marvel's gonna get better, or it's like actually because Marvel was like not as good, and that's a subjective opinion, and I do because I know there's gonna be 10 comments that are like, actually I think it's the best it's ever been. I'm like, good for you. I'm glad you and your friend like it, but like.
I will say this, even if you're enjoying Phase 4, I don't think anyone can argue Phase 4, because I mean, generally across the board, while I didn't enjoy it as much as Phase 1 through 3, I didn't have any complaints about Phase 4.
Not
just
necessarily.
Overall was like, it's not as good as it could have been.
I complained a lot about it, but like not in like a seething, crazy way.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, this is not as good. Like
I complained about it in more of a devil's advocate kind of a way.
That's
like
fair.
At the end of the day, like I don't mind watching Moon Knight, but I have a lot of complaints about Moon Knight. So.
Precisely. I did not like watching Moon Knight, but I will. But I also had complaints. But
I will never rewatch Moon Knight. That I will definitively tell you.
There are so many of them I'll never watch again. Yeah. All of them. I literally for a minute I thought about rewatching Loki, and I'm like, nah, I kind of got the gist of it. Like even Loki, which is great. Like it's a great show, but like I'll probably never watch it. Andor, I will watch Andor again, but that's another topic. But yeah, I think that I am not convinced. I think this Alonzo thing is like is them trying to trick us into thinking that that them making stuff that is as good or almost as good as stuff they made 5 years ago is gold. Like I think that they're going to be like, look at these 2 movies we made, and aren't they fine? But compared to the latter half of Ms. Marvel or any of our other stuff, like Ant-Man 3, they're gold. Like they're great, Like I don't know. I'm concerned. I'm concerned because like it's so.
I mean, Guardians 3 is not going to be affected by this. Whatever Guardians 3, I'm excited for
Guardians
that.
3 is a completely different animal.
I will tell you right now, because it happened to be both on Ant-Man and Shazam, where I didn't get to go see them because the plans fell through and I just didn't reschedule.
Right.
I will reschedule Guardians. Guardians I want to see in theater in that experience. So.
Yes, that is completely fair. Definitely I'm going to watch Guardians 3. Guardians 3 was just like, well, it's the 3rd chapter in a trilogy made by essentially one creative direction.
I mean, I went to see Thor and Black Panther the day it came out.
Same.
So.
Oops.
Huh?
Oops.
Oops? What do you mean oops?
Didn't need to.
I mean, that'll agree with. I didn't need to, but I did enjoy them, so.
Yes. Yeah.
Look, I get the complaints about Thor, and I had a lot of complaints coming out of Thor, but I will say, in the theater, in the moment, eating my popcorn and nachos, I enjoyed it. As soon as I got out, I started to go, what the fudge did I just watch?
Dude, like, I think around 2/3 of the movie, I'm just like, is this bad?
I at least got out of the movie, and then I started making the connections of, like, they did nothing with Mighty Thor. That was pointless. Gore got butchered. That was pointless. What was that CG? Anyway, now we're complete. Let's go back to the point at hand, though, so we can close up today's
Victoria
video,
Alonso, sacked.
Yeah.
Does it mean Marvel will
I
get
agree
better?
with you.
I think it'll only look like Marvel's getting better. I think that
I agree with you. I wonder if this is a dog and pony show.
Yeah.
Where they I wonder, I could see the meeting. They all sat around and they're like, hey, someone has to go.
Right, someone has to be fired. Someone important
we
has
have
to get
show
fired.
that we're making, that's the standard practice of these companies.
Yes.
And she maybe, because she got 17 years. She's got her own brand. I don't think she sat around like, oh no, don't fire me with a pension.
Right. Right? Like, what if she's like, oh, actually, like, I really enjoyed, maybe she liked, based on reports from, like, effects departments during the Disney Plus era, I feel like she probably would not want to get into television since that's, like, the arena that she is being fired for. But maybe she enjoyed making, like, smaller projects. Or maybe she's just getting such a golden parachute that she's like, I don't need to work anymore, or I don't need to work on this anymore. Like maybe she'll create her own production company, and she'll go to like Sundance and pick up little movies and help finance them and give them, hook them up with effects departments to make them better. I don't know, but it could be an opportunity for her where she's like, it's 17 years is long enough. It was hard enough. I'm going. I'll be the one. I don't know.
All right. Sorry, I was trying to look up right here. Apparently, she was fired because of a breach in contract. And before I said anything, I wanted to click that to see if it was just from our chat or if she was.
Yeah, I also heard that she's like disputing the firing, but
yeah. She was involved. She was fired over her involvement in the Oscar-nominated drama Argentina, 1985, which was distributed by Amazon Studios. She was a producer on the film, which is a breach of her contract.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
So it could have been the perfect timing of we need to show that we're making moves and fire someone, and hey, you breached the contract.
That could be.
Yeah, she signed her contract 2018, says she would not compete. She went to go work at the competing thing.
Yeah, here's a quote from Disney. It's unfortunate that Victoria is sharing a narrative that leaves out several key factors concerning her departure, including an indisputable breach of contract and a direct violation of company policy. So it does seem uglier and less quiet behind the scenes than we initially thought. Yeah, okay. So
I mean, that doesn't change anything we've just said overall.
No,
it does add a little bit more
me,
to why she was picked to be the firing. But
that's true. It could be that they were like, it could be that they're like, we need. It could be she wasn't in the room when they made that decision.
Yeah,
where they're like, we need to get a sacrificial lamb. We were going to sweep under the rug Victoria's like issue with this like breach of contract. How about instead it's the reason she's fired?
Because the movie came out 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Which means even if they didn't know about it until the movie came out, they've had 6 months to make this decision. So I do think that's just the reason behind it.
Right.
Like that. We need to make some big moves and make it look good. And hey, she breached contract.
Yeah,
so.
we're getting into. It does sound a little conspiracy theory-y at this point.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
but that's not beyond the realm of possibility, and certainly how these companies operate. So, but I think I would not start celebrating in the streets that suddenly the MCU is going to look really, really good now that Victoria Alonso's gone. Now that a veteran who worked for the company for 17 years, who helped shepherd Stan Winston Studios working on Iron Man, is now gone. Like, I wonder. I mean, listen, maybe someone who is great will ascend, or maybe they'll hire somebody from without who is hungry and passionate and knows a bunch of and has a really good like rapport with these companies. I don't know. Time will tell.
Right. So, Chad, just to end it real quick, her camp is basically stating that she had permission to produce the film.
Sounds
but
right.
At the end of the day, she's been fired, and we don't know what this is going to mean in the long run, considering she did have a hand in a lot of things. The however many years of good, like the 12 years of like solid movies, and the last 3 years of COVID era production bullshit. So
I mean, you take the bad with the good. Like, she worked on it all. So
yep. All right, well, this has been Absolutely. My name is Benny. That is Sal, the best looking man on the internet with the greatest goatee. And I will see you next time right here.
So long.